Ironman is not actually the physical aspect, as you said. It is not physically enduring. Yes, it is partly physically enduring, but it is mostly mentally enduring, I would say. I think everybody I know who's jumped into open water for the first time has a panic attack. I mean, I also had a panic attack. But then, after you have the panic attack, to go back again, that's the beauty of it, I would say. Keep going back even though you're scared. And I think there's a quote about how it's so beautiful when you're scared of something to keep doing it again and again, right? That's the only way you eradicate fear.
Because you starting a new family, looking after parents, so many other things. So it's actually 40 before you actually stop and see what's happening with your life.
I think from couch potato to full Ironman, within 2 to 3 years, it's possible.
You won't believe 90% of the women who undergo blood tests, they are anemic.
Mornings are very hectic, yeah. So we at that 7 to 8:30 is family time. So I like to be back home by 7.
So you work in real estate. It's not a field where we see a lot of women. So what was the journey like being a woman in this kind of a profession? नमस्ते, मैं हूं डॉक्टर प्रिया भावे चित्तावर और आज हर हेल्थ टॉक्स के इस एपिसोड में हमारे साथ एक बहुत ही खास शख्सियत है। मेरे साथ हैं निरूपा शंकर जी। निरूपा जॉइंट एमडी हैं ब्रिगेड ग्रुप की। ब्रिगेड ग्रुप इंडिया का टॉप रियल एस्टेट और हॉस्पिटैलिटी ग्रुप है और बहुत सारे इनके वर्टिकल्स हैं जो कि न केवल साउथ इंडिया परंतु कहीं ना कहीं पूरे देश में है। निरूपा की खास बात यह है कि वो एक बहुत बड़ी फर्म को लीड तो करती ही है, साथ ही 2 बच्चों की माँ है और विश्व की सबसे कठिन सिंगल डे एंड्योरेंस इवेंट यानी कि आयरन मैन फिनिशर भी है। निरूपा, वेलकम टू हर हेल्थ टॉक्स।
Thank you for having me, Dr. Priya.
What is exceptional about you is that you had a very long day at work today.
Yeah.
You were traveling, you were not even in Bangalore, and
Yeah.
you have landed directly into the podcast studio without so much as a break in between.
That's right. That's
So
a
what's
typical day of every woman, I think.
So what's the secret of your endurance?
There's no secret. I think I just try to make sure that I do regular blood tests actually, at least once in 6 months, just to make sure my iron levels are good. So actually, because I've realized that the days I get tired, it's due to lack of iron in my system. So make sure I get enough iron, make sure like my vitamin C, B, D, everything is at least sufficient levels, maybe not optimal, but at least sufficient levels. And apart from that, nothing much. I try to sleep. I think as you get older, you realize the value and the importance of sleep. So I try to put sleep as a priority.
So I think that's a very important point that you've made.
Yeah.
As a gynec,
Yeah.
I see women every day and almost 90% of them are tired.
Yeah.
And most of the times, 90% of the times when we do their blood work, we find some or the other reason. So
Yeah.
it's practically that, a fit body
Yeah.
can only make you endure through your day and in the different roles that you assume.
Yeah.
But more than a fit body, it's also the mind.
Yeah.
And probably what you have done in the endurance field has also expanded your mind.
Yeah. I think generally, I think it's also people's personalities, right? I'm generally very excited about life. I think I'm excited about what the day has in store for me. I try to make sure there are one or two things I'm excited to do in a day, because sometimes work can get very monotonous. We all know that whatever job you do, I think 80% is a bit of boring grunt work. That 20% is actually the exciting things. So yeah, so today this was one of the exciting things for me. I was like, okay, everybody likes to talk about their experiences and their journeys. And I was like, I'm happy to be doing this podcast since it's also focused specifically for women. So I'm excited to do things in life, and I keep signing up for things, whether it's travel, whether it's events, whether it's races, because it excites me.
And you won't believe 90% of the women who undergo blood tests, they are anemic. And almost 100% will be deficient in vitamin D,
Yeah.
or their thyroids will be out of range.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
usually women will blame everything else that, I'm tired because of that,
Yeah.
and they'll forget doing such a
Yeah.
small thing.
Yeah. So sometimes it's the basics, right? Just get
Right.
your sleep in order. Are you eating the right food or are you eating junk food? So I feel like life is just getting the basics right. You don't have to do anything too extraordinary in life, I've realized.
Absolutely. So, in one of your talks, you said being more than what you thought you can be.
Yeah.
So, Tell me more. How does it happen? How can you become more than you think you can be?
I just feel that, see, when I did my Ironman, I was 40 years old by then, so I had a relatively easy life, touch wood. God had been kind. My parents worked very hard for me to have a good life and for me to have a relatively easy life. So many times you read very inspiring stories of people who had some hardship, home was not okay, or they had a lot of poverty or something or the other. They really fight against all odds. And that they talk is that's what gave them the strength to become superhuman or something
Yeah.
extraordinary. I didn't have any of those things, so I was very easygoing. I didn't really push myself. I would study last minute. I would get decent grades. I had no aspiration like you to be a doctor or do something of big service, and I didn't know what I wanted to be actually for a very long time. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be a lawyer, maybe I'll do this, but I never worked hard enough to get into law school. I wanted to enjoy my summer holidays. So I never pushed myself throughout my life, I want to say. I just never pushed myself. But I think after mid 30s, I had my first child. I had gained a lot of weight. Um, and I was always a sports person. I think growing up, I played basketball for my school. I played a bit of tennis, bit of swimming in the summer camp, but not really. I was always a sports person, like the outdoors. And I just felt that in my 30s, after I gained some 25 kilos after my first child, and I had to get rid of that. I didn't feel like my normal self, and then I got into training. I found a good coach, a strength coach, to start helping me to train. He said, why don't you start running to help your weight
Mhm.
loss? Then I joined a running club. And that when I joined the running club, everybody there started talking about triathlons. And I said, what is this triathlon? And then they told me, okay, this is a sprint, this is Olympic, this is half Ironman, this is full Ironman. And at that time, I think I was about 35, and I said, okay, maybe this full Ironman sounds impossible today, but maybe when I'm 40, I think I can gift myself the fitness of being an Ironman. So that's how the whole journey started. Yeah.
Exactly. So I remember when I turned 40, that year I was 25 kgs more than what I am today.
Okay, why were you expecting?
No, I wasn't. I was just so much into my career,
Oh, yeah.
and my kids were grown
Yeah.
up by then.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
But I was very over it because I was totally focusing on
Yeah.
my work
Yeah.
from morning till night and, working all 7 days. And that's when I read Milind Soman has done an Ironman, and I was like, can I do this when I'm 45?
Yeah.
And it takes that much of
Yes.
time
Yeah.
for somebody who's not working full time and is a mother. It takes 3 to
Yeah.
4 years to reach that
Yeah.
level.
I mean, I go to the extent, so I did it very differently. I said, my swimming was not good. I'd never actually cycled. I'd never cycled on a two-wheel cycle. Like, okay, as a kid, on a tricycle or whatever it is, but I'd never cycled on a cycle. My swimming, I could do one lap. Um, and then my running, I enjoyed running, but my first 10K I did only after 35.
Mhm.
And when I was 30, I played basketball, but there you don't have to do, it's not
Yeah.
endurance, it's short
Yes.
sprints. So my first 10K came to me when I was 35 years old. So all of it, like you said, 35 to 40 is when
Yes.
I did it. It was a 5-year journey. But of course, in the middle, I had my second child. So I took 2 years off there as well. So I would say every event I took about 5 months. So
Mm.
when I did my first sprint triathlon, sprint distance, then I did. It took me 5 months of training for sprint. Then I just took it easy after that. I wanted to have my second child. It took a couple of years, and then all that. Then after my second child, which was after I was 37, 38, I said I'll do an Olympic distance. Then I trained for 5 months. Then I got COVID. So I had
Mm.
COVID twice, I think, and I had the Delta, which was the really bad one where I couldn't even get up for 5 minutes. And I couldn't like literally sit up for even 5 minutes. It took me 2 months after the isolation period just to be able to walk for half an hour. So then again, I had to restart my training, and I did the Olympic distance at 38. I did the half Ironman distance at 39, and I did the full Ironman at 40. But each time, I think I gave myself about 5 months. So because your body has it has some memory. Yeah, you have muscle memory. So I didn't feel I had to restart from scratch. So it took about 2, 3 months to get back into some level of endurance. And then the last 2 months would be hardcore
Really.
training.
But those 5 years, your business is also growing.
Yeah,
You're supposed to, as you grow, your inputs into work are required more and more.
yeah,
Your kids are also growing.
yeah,
You, in fact, had a baby, and that's probably the first 2 or 3 years
yeah.
is when you
It's
have to
crazy. Yeah,
absolutely focus totally on
yeah,
your child.
yeah.
So, why did you decide to do?
I don't know. It was a long term promise to myself. Like I said, when I was 35, I promised myself that when I'm 40, I'll do this for myself. But life happens. As I said, there was a family exigency. A family member was very unwell in my 39th year. So I couldn't do my full Ironman then. And of course, my kids were also young. But I have a very supportive husband. So he honestly helped me through the journey because somebody has to be at home looking after the kids, helping them with the school, getting ready for school. So luckily, I had a very supportive husband and family support as well. So that was good. But at 40, I had told myself I'll do it. I thought I'll do it before 40,
Hmm.
but I landed up doing in my 40th year. Just before I turned 41 is when I managed to do it because life has different plans for you, and you have to be able to adjust and I would say reprioritize your goals. Like if a family member is sick, that takes priority over everything else. My Ironman was not important compared to making sure I spent enough time with a family member. Looking after my work, making sure I don't drop the ball there is very important. It's a public listed entity. I have a lot of responsibilities there, a lot of growth that is required, and it is very possible for somebody like you and me to get so focused on work that you don't focus on fitness. I was just speaking to you right before this podcast that it's 1 year since I did my
Yeah.
full Ironman. So I did Copenhagen last year, and today I think there'll be finishers doing Copenhagen this year. And in that last 1 year, I've had put so much of effort into finishing Copenhagen that the last 2 months work does, you have to prioritize the number of hours. You have to spend at least 15 hours a week on training. So after Copenhagen, work just took over and I gained actually a lot of weight again. So now I'm in the process of removing that weight again. But it's a constant battle, I feel, because you're eating for like as if you're burning 2,500 calories a day. But when you're not training, you're probably burning only 1,500 to 1,600 calories a day. And so then you have to change your entire diet, and it's hard to do. So there are a lot of leaders who forget their health, and I see it in my in close family members as well. They're so focused on work that they stop prioritizing health. But I think I've realized very early that health, unless you have your health, you can't continue focusing. It is the new wealth, I would say.
Absolutely,
And your health
absolutely.
is what will help you do this, endure through the next few decades of work. If you don't have your health and you're just all the time only on work, and you don't focus time on exercise, eating right, sleeping right, what are you doing all this for?
And what happens is actually the 1.5 hours that we give on weekdays, and maybe Sunday we are sometimes away for 4 5 hours long bike or a brick workout. So you actually, as a woman, feel very guilty that
Yeah,
at this time I could have been with my family. This time I could have been with my mother.
yeah,
I could have seen some patients. I could have done
yeah,
something for my work.
yeah,
So when you're doing anything other than family and work,
yeah,
it's not easy.
yeah,
At least for women, it's not easy. But you realize that if you want to be a fit mother to your children, if
yeah,
you want to be actually enthusiastic at work
yeah,
all the time, then you need to do those hours for yourself.
yeah. And I think, even as a working woman, it's very important to also be fit while you work. Nobody comes and tells me, wow, Narupa, you're so inspiring because you work 10, 12 hours a day. No, that's nobody's goal. But if when I lost weight, both my pregnancies, I gained 25 kilos and I had to lose 25 kilos twice. And both the times, I know what it took. It took a lot of energy, effort. And the second time was much harder, I would say, than the first time. But people will come and say, wow, Narupa, you're so inspiring. You've lost so much of weight. See, and I used to think, why are people so obsessed with the external physical appearances, right? Why are they not understanding that I do so much more than just train? People think, okay, when you're losing weight or you're training for Ironman, that's all you do. But it's not. It's you spend maybe 1 out of 24 hours in a day, or 2 hours out of 24 hours in a day, but that those 2 hours are very important. And it's not just the 2 hours that they exercising, right? It's the 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
It's the what you do in the remaining 22 hours, I would say, is what keeps you slim or fit. So I would say people used to come and say you're so inspiring because you're able to do this Ironman while you're working and you're able to stay fit. Now I'm just giving an example. Like if I was 25 kilos heavier today, I don't think you'd be doing this podcast with me first of all, right? I mean,
And maybe you would not have the energy after working for 2 days
yeah.
continuously
And
to.
nobody's
Yeah,
going to aspire to be me if I'm 25 kilos overweight, even though I work day and night. It's a
absolutely.
fact, whatever said and done. And initially, I used to think it was because of physical appearances and people giving more weightage to the outside. But it's actually not. It's what you stand for when you do an Ironman. It's what you stand for when you do endurance. It requires discipline. It requires focus. It requires to be uncomfortable, like getting up on Sunday morning at 4:35 in the morning and doing 6-7 hours of cycling is not easy. Foregoing Sundays, foregoing weekends. See, as a working professional, I can't do workouts of 2-3 hours a day on a weekday. I can do 1 hour
Absolutely.
on a weekday. Max 1.5 hours I can do on a weekday. But the remaining hours have to come 3-4 hours on a Saturday. It has to come 6-7 hours on a Sunday. And how many people are willing to let go of their weekends? It's so. How many people are willing to let go of sleep? How many people will be willing to say no to a drink every Friday and Saturday night? You don't need to do it every Friday and Saturday night, but at least for the 2-3 months before the Ironman, you will have to.
It's actually, you have to say no to a lot of things. So I think basically what happened to me in my Ironman is I had said no to so many things,
Yeah.
and then I realized that probably they never were needed in my life.
Yeah. Like what? What were some of the things you said no to?
Lots and lots of things, because you're supposed to be at many social
Yeah.
events,
Yeah.
many parties, so many family gatherings, for doctors so many conferences.
Yeah.
I used to feel that going there and delivering that lecture is very, very important.
Yeah.
But then I realized that even if you miss 5 conferences, you are
Yeah.
actually the same. It doesn't actually matter. And with online presence, if you publish or if you are online, you can practically get the same.
See, in the end, it's your choice, I would say, right? Like, honestly, even Ironman, right? There are 100, I don't know how many races there are, but 150 races a year. If you don't do this year, you can do next year.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
is
yeah.
going to happen, right? So there's no. See, everything is your choice. Like you said, conferences. At some point in my career, when I was starting my career, attending conferences and being part of a panel discussion, giving a
Right.
talk was very important for me because it got me a lot of credibility. It because I used to, when I first started working with Brigade, which was 15 years ago, I didn't know anybody, and I was new to the hotel industry. I was new to the office industry. I was new to retail. And I said in my goals, I had written, become a speaker at these 2-3 conferences because it'll give you credibility. It'll establish that you are a subject matter expert, which I wanted to be a subject matter expert in these 3-4 fields. So that time, that was my priority because for me, it gave me a leg up on my career. I started
Right.
writing articles for trade journals and all that. Then I made sure I had to attend these 3-4 conferences as a speaker. It took few years to get there. Like
Right.
initially, obviously, the first 3-4 years, nobody invited me. I had to pay and go for a couple of these conferences. But I think with time, once you establish yourself and then you prove yourself a little bit, then you start getting invited as a speaker and as a so-called subject matter expert. So for me, that was important. Maybe Ironman in my 20s or late 20s, early 30s was not my priority. And in fact, it's interesting that there are more number of women in the 40s who participate in an Ironman than in the 30s, and they're actually faster in the 40s than in the 30s. When I was looking at finishers and their speed, and I think that's because once you hit your 40s, you realize. I think you have a little more time to give to yourself. You prioritize yourself more than perhaps career, and you're
Kids.
done. Your kids are
Yeah.
a little more older, so you're able to prioritize other hobbies. So I think now we have the luxury to think of Ironman.
Right.
That's how I look at it. To me, the ability to do an Ironman, like you said, give yourself time, prioritize your health. It's a luxury, honestly, in a way, and that women
We can
can do in our
actually
40s
only afford it now,
now.
because the kind of money and the kind of time it requires. Most of the women don't have that. And I
Yeah.
always say that, 30s will go like this
Yeah.
because you starting a new family, looking
Yeah.
after parents,
Yeah.
so many other things. So it's
Yeah.
actually 40 before you actually, stop and see what's happening with
Yeah.
your life.
So yeah, there's no hurry. I mean, for people who've not thought about it in their 40s, I'd say women in their 50s can also start.
Absolutely.
I always say, I think from couch potato to full Ironman, within 2 to 3 years, it's possible if you give it that focused effort. But like I took little breaks in between. Like I said, I took a break to have my second child. I took a break for COVID. But if you really have that focused time, I think couch potato to Ironman in 2 to 3 years is definitely
It's
possible.
definitely possible. But, more than the physical aspect of it, for me, Ironman was not actually to prove myself physically.
Yeah.
There was some mental
Yeah.
block that I grew up with. So I always thought that my father failed in a business. And I always thought that, I'm a very good doctor. I'm an
Yeah.
extremely skilled surgeon. I'll do very well working for somebody. I never thought that, I'll be able to work for myself. That was a fear in my mind. So I told myself that, if you're able to do an Ironman, probably you will be able to manage your own hospital. Now, it seems very funny to everybody that, every second doctor has a clinic or a hospital. What's
Yeah.
the big deal? But
Yeah.
that was my big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could reach the finish line because at the finish line, I saw my hospital.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that kept me going. I was not physically there. I took all of 16 hours, whatever, 16 hours plus to finish that.
Yeah.
But at the end, I did not see the finish line. I saw the hospital. So, what was
Yeah.
your why?
It's a good question. I think my why was, similar to you in a way. We all like I grew up with I'm in a family business. I'm the second gen. Father's very successful businessman and somebody who many people look up to a lot. He's like known as a visionary. He's really done a lot in his field. And when I started the business, it was, oh, she's Jaishankar's daughter, you know? Uh, and we used to get 360-degree feedback in the office. And early on in my career, the feedback I got was, oh, she's just here because she's her father's daughter. So it's little chip on your shoulder, right? I mean, you might be smart, you might be so many different things, but people think, okay, in second gen, first of all, you still have to prove yourself. It's not like it was. It's not like everything's given to you on a silver platter. I also started in a very small division of Brigade, which was only hotels, which was only 5% of the top line. So I also had a little chip on my shoulder that, okay, I need to prove myself. I need to show that I'm not just here because I'm somebody's daughter or whatever it is. See, so for me, doing the Ironman, nobody can take that away from you, right? Because nobody can take away discipline, focus, hard work. That nobody can take. And there's a very small percentage of the population that completes a full Ironman. Of course, in your and I world, when you start the finish line, you see so many other people there. But as a percentage of the population, it's a very, very small number. And that too for Indian women in India doing a full
Yeah,
Ironman.
yeah.
Many of them do half and Olympic and all that. But I've been to enough races to see the number of women are
Very small.
disproportionately very low. So for me, it was to prove that I have the mental toughness. Ironman is not actually the physical aspect, as you
Absolutely,
said. It is
absolutely.
not physically enduring. Yes, it is partly physically enduring, but it is mostly mentally enduring, I would say. So I wanted to prove to myself and to everybody around me that I had the mental toughness to finish it.
Yeah.
Physically, I was not there like you. I think I didn't have enough time to train, and I had too many other responsibilities, like you said, young kids, a public listed entity to run. I had many demands on my time. So even my coach at one point had told me, Nirupa, if you don't do whatever I set out for you, you will not cross the finish line. Even 1 month before the race, he told me, I don't know if you'll cross the finish line. But in my head, I had already played it out. I knew I was going to cross the finish line. I said, I will crawl, I'll do whatever it takes. I will cross that finish line as long as I don't get a puncture or something, which I may not know how to fix. So for me, it was not and when I finished it, I was so happy. I messaged him and he said, it was sheer will that you crossed that line because physically you had not trained enough for it. My training, we all have our training peaks schedule,
Yeah.
and I was actually 70% of where I needed to be. And physically, it was a mental game. Like during the race, I had enough cramps. I was in enough pain, but I don't remember it today. I don't remember the physical pain. I just remember the mental internal talk.
Yeah.
I had to tell myself how much I had to speak to myself.
And
It
it's
was
a long
a
day,
conversation.
Yeah.
Like my sister was there at the event, and she said it was so tiring just waiting for you to finish the event, right? Like she was there from the beginning at 7:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night or whatever time it took. And she was like, it was exhausting just waiting for you. I had other friends who told me I can't even sleep I took about 14 hours, 47 minutes to finish it. And they were like, I can't even sleep for 14 hours, 47 minutes when you're doing cardio for 14 hours, 47 minutes. So it's definitely not physical. At some point, you zone out. And my last 2 kilometers were the fastest in the 42K. So it's definitely not physical. It's only mental.
And it's a long time to spend with yourself,
It's a long
no
time.
phone, no
Mm.
music,
Yeah.
nobody to talk to. It's just you with your thoughts
Yeah.
for those 14,
Yeah.
15, 16 hours,
Yeah.
whatever
And it's
time you
amazing
take.
the conversations I had with myself, the way I'm really proud of that.
Mm.
Like I never looked at myself as some great positive motivational person. Like, sometimes I look at every side, not just the good side. I look at the negative, I look at the positive. But those 14, 15 hours, the way I prop myself up, I was really proud of that, you know.
Absolutely. And I can
Yeah.
imagine, because I was following you on the Ironman app. So I was, and the notifications will keep on
Yeah.
popping up. And even
Yeah.
as I was sleeping, I would just get up
Yeah.
and check, where's she. So practically, I think the big thing about Ironman is that, it's you who crosses the finishing line. But there are many of them who come on the start line because of that. I had told myself that if Nirupa
Oh,
finishes this, then I'll also go and do my full. So I think it's that influence, you have a circle of influence, but when
yeah.
you do something like that,
Yeah.
your circle of influence definitely becomes bigger. There's so many people who look up to you. You may not even know their names,
Yeah.
but they get inspired. Do you think it's changed the way things happen at work the last 1 year?
I mean, actually, I would say it's one was finishing that Ironman, but it's really given me a leg up in work in the last 1 year. And I would say it's incredible because people give you a certain amount of respect, right? Like you get
Yes,
street cred, right? Credibility, because nobody can do that for you. You can be whoever, son, daughter, mother, father. No, it doesn't matter. It
absolutely.
really doesn't matter. And in the last 1 year, I've given a lot of talks on this because people want to hear my story. I wasn't first, I wasn't on the podium. I was honestly one of the last. Like, and I have no shame in saying that because that was not my goal. Um, but the number of talks I've given, like my dad was initially not super kicked when I was doing this Ironman. He was like, how are you going to focus on your work? What are you trying to prove? You need to just stay focused on work. It was all work, work, work. That's his life. But I was very clear that this is not, I want to do this because it gives me a lot of joy. Like getting up early in the morning, I don't like the getting up part, but once you're out there cycling with a good friend, having a good conversation, the community that like how you push yourself. Like I remember when I did my first 4K, the journey, it's all the journey of who you're becoming, right?
Absolutely.
And it gave me a lot of self confidence. And I started giving talks to people I would never dream of giving talks to. Like I grew up, my dad's circle of friends, his Rotary Club, like these are all extremely successful businessmen, like doctors, other
Absolutely.
builders, and very, very successful businessmen. And they would come to hear me talk on my Ironman journey. And I was like, I don't know what I can teach you or say to you, but this is what I went through. I could only speak authentically to what I went through. And they would still come up and say, that was so inspiring. That was so this. That was so. So it was nice because we all want to inspire in a positive way. So for me, it built a lot of self confidence. It gave me certain mental toughness. It gave me a good platform, I would say, right? Because again, you and I would not be talking today here if I had not finished the Ironman, right? And it's good in a way. I want to be and that's one of the things. In fact, I was talking to another friend of mine. A friend's brother passed away recently, and he was quite young. And we were at his prayer service, and I was like, what do you want to be remembered as? Like, when you think of your life, right? Everybody, I feel, initially it's I, me, myself. Like I said, early on in life, it's I, me, myself. You're just
Wanting to establish yourself
yourself, right? And
primarily.
then it becomes, okay, family. Then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let me extend I, me, myself to my immediate family. Then as you get older, I think you want to leave a certain
Legacy.
legacy behind. You want
Absolutely.
to have a positive impact on not just yourself and your near and dear, but you want to have it on a larger set of people. And I would like to also do that. Now, how I do that, maybe it's through my work, maybe it's through helping people
Yes.
in a way that I don't know yet how to do, but maybe it's also through Ironman and influencing people to pick up sport, pick up, look after themselves better, do something to for themselves. I think as a woman, I'm big into women doing things for themselves. I think we're all
Mm.
so used to um, doing things for other people, and like you said, having guilt. Whatever. If I'm at work, I'm like I should be with my kids. If I'm at with my kids, I'm like I'm not doing enough work. If I'm doing something else, I'm out at a party. I should be training. It's just if I when I'm training, I'm like, relationships really matter. I should be there for my friends. I should not be missing this birthday party. So it is never ending, right? So I think it's important to also focus on ourselves. And for me, eradicating this guilt is very important.
Absolutely. Last 3 days I haven't worked out. So
Me
I'm
also.
into that guilt that, for 3 days I haven't worked
Yeah.
out. But I
Yeah.
just thought to myself that, it's not a big deal. Also, when you do something like the Ironman, it immediately gives you that respect, that people look at you, okay, okay, this is a lady who can sit in an AC chamber and see patients and, ride in a very comfortable car.
Yeah.
But she can also jump into a lake and,
Yeah.
do an open water swim or go out in
Yeah.
45 degrees and do a cycling. So,
Yeah.
that respect, the moment you say the word Ironman, it commands that kind of
Yeah.
respect. And I think it's well deserved because,
That is.
uh, for all of us who grow up very protected, jumping into the sea or
Yeah.
jumping into a lake. So, what was the reaction of the family when going out on roads with Bangalore traffic?
So I think that's why my dad was afraid. Frankly, I don't think he didn't want me to do it. I think he was just concerned for my safety.
Absolutely.
Because Bangalore, there's no ocean, first of all. You
Yeah.
have to travel at least 40 to 70 kilometers. There's a lake, I think 40 kilometers away, but it's not, it doesn't give you great practice. I think there's a lot of areas where you can just walk.
Mm.
And then there's another lake which is about 70 kilometers away. So it's time, yeah. You're giving precious time. You're giving your life, you know, important 2 hours to go, 2 hours to come, 1 hour to swim. That's half a
And
Sunday.
jumping into the open water, it's such a
Scary.
thing for.
I think everybody I know who's jumped into open water for the first time has a panic attack.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I also had a panic attack. But then after you have the panic attack, to go back again. That's the beauty of it, I would say. Keep going back even though you're scared. And I think there's a quote about how it's so beautiful when you're scared of something to keep doing it again and again, right? That's the only way you eradicate fear. So I'm scared. I'm actually not an adrenaline junkie. I don't like speed. So for me to cycle really fast, I'm scared, not because I can't go fast, but because of the way we have to travel in
Yeah,
Bangalore traffic. I don't know who's going to come from the other side. I don't know who's going to come from behind. I don't know who's going to come
absolutely.
from the side. I don't know where the next pothole is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to see the next road hump. So these are all things. Then if I go by myself, I don't know who's going to misbehave with me on the road. So you always have to go with a guy, a friend, a guy friend, or have somebody follow you. But people sometimes do misbehave also. Like when I've done my long cycle rides, if they thought nobody was around me, people do misbehave a little bit when they're on the bikes, or they'll come extra close and
Yeah, yeah.
all these silly things. So yeah, it's the water. We don't know what's in that water. We don't know the current. We don't know so many things. But you go in with the fear. Every time I go for a cycle ride, I'm like, dear God, just please take me back to my children. I want to go finish this cycle ride safe. um it's those are that's the reality, frankly. And I don't go cycling by myself because I always have a guy friend accompany
Mhm.
me, because I need that. Even, I mean, it's not even safe with just a female friend. Of course, one female friend is better than nobody,
Nothing.
but you have to now protect yourself. I think I was reading something with this whole talk with the Faye D'Souza. She was talking about how women are like rabbits. You're like constantly looking who's behind you, who's ahead of you. You know, if you're alone somewhere, you're always like having your head over your shoulder, looking out for yourself. And that is how it is.
And it's so difficult to train. So I always carry my driver. He follows me.
Yeah.
There was a time when he stopped for tea somewhere because it was unearthly hour. We got up at 3 o'clock and left at 4 o'clock. So poor chap stopped for tea
Yeah.
somewhere. My phone was with him. And there were a couple of people who actually came and stopped my bike. And I was like so scared on that day.
Stopped for what? Just to.
Just to kind of tease because it was early morning, it was kind of dark. So, even with
Yeah.
a driver on the
Yeah.
road, a woman like me who's like 45 plus,
Yeah.
and from that day onwards, people told me that don't have your hair open, put it inside so that,
They
people
don't know
don't
you're a
feel that
female.
it's a woman. So it's actually very, very difficult to train for an Ironman.
Yeah, it is. And I had gone to Copenhagen for the Ironman, and just before that, we went obviously 2-3 days before. Oh my God, that city is a very safe city. But the way the opportunity you have to train, there was like a creek in front of the hotel, and everybody was just jumping into the water and just swimming. That opportunity is not there. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of effort, planning. Like if you go out on a Saturday night, there's definitely no way you can get up on a Sunday morning and go. You can, but you'll be compromising on sleep. And I don't know how good it is. As a doctor, you'll know
Yeah.
everybody's talking about people getting heart attacks and this and that because they're not getting enough rest and sleep, and they're doing these long distance endurance runs. So some days I take a call. I said I'd rather not do my training if I've had a late night, and I would rather just sleep because I think that's more important for the body to recover. And you're doing an Ironman, so you're here, you're in this for the long run. You're doing
Absolutely.
endurance events, so you have to look
It
after
makes you a
yourself for
very,
the long run.
yeah.
This is not like something you just do and then forget about it.
It makes you a very good planner.
Yeah.
So the next day morning, you're right. There are at least 50 things that have to be taken out and arranged. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if you get up and start searching for it, then you're done.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just
You have a
can't.
checklist for
Yeah.
cycling checklist, swimming checklist, Ironman checklist, transition packing. Everything is you have a checklist for everything. And like you rightly said, I think it makes you very efficient. From a work perspective, what that did to me was normally, especially pre-COVID, every meeting, they'll schedule 1 hour meeting, you know, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, whatever. After this, when I started training for the Ironman, I started questioning everything. I was like, why do we need 1 hour? Can we do it in half an hour? Can we do it in 20 minutes? Like, can we have a 20-minute standing meeting? Because I was like, I need to, maximize the in-person
Output,
time.
yes.
And also, I think COVID helped a little bit because after COVID, this whole online meeting became okay. So I take meetings going to work. On my commute is 20 minutes to work and about 20 minutes coming also. Every commute has meetings scheduled, so it's online stuff. So it's a really very efficiently run day. So my 8 hours of work, or yeah, could feel like 12 hours to somebody else. But my lunch is 15 minutes. Everything is in 15-minute slots. It's not 1 hour anymore because you can do a lot in 15 minutes.
And you get the maximum, you get the bang for your buck when you're training for Ironman. So you understand, every minute, the value of that minute.
Yeah.
And so people will ask you, how can you do so many other things? But you are actually getting 1 hour's worth, 2 hours worth from that 1 hour of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Sometimes I go to this gym to train and it's 3 kilometers away. And anyway, I need to go do 15-20 minutes of warm up once. Actually, I need to do 10 minutes, but I'm like, why should I spend 10 minutes in the car? I'll rather run to the gym, which is 3 kilometers away, and run back. I do 6K in a day plus my gym workout. I mean, that's 2 hours of solid exercise, maybe, yeah, maybe 1 hour, 40 minutes. So everything you start thinking, how can you
Yeah,
economize? How can you reduce transition time, not only in the race, but in life?
in life.
Can I come directly? Like I came back from Mysore. Can I come directly to the podcast studio instead of going home, changing, coming? That's a huge.
Yeah.
You save a lot of time with all these things. So you start thinking of new ways to save time. Like my groceries. I stopped doing my groceries before the 20 minutes to go to the office. I would finish my grocery shopping online, big basket. Now I saved even that time. I asked somebody else to do it, one of my maids who's decent with the
Mm.
app. I'll ask her only to put it in. But you save 20 minutes of just grocery shopping. That's imagine 20 minutes per week, 20 minutes into
Absolutely.
52
And
weeks.
as women, we were anyways good at time management. But I think doing this actually makes us better. And also, I think I learned to delegate. I used
Yeah.
to think that, every patient has to be seen by me. After every scan, I have to talk to them. But after Ironman, what has happened is I have become very, very selective, and it's actually maybe not affected work so much because we feel that we are required everywhere. It's not so. Many times our juniors can actually take over
Yeah.
and do the work,
Yeah.
and we require. But there must have been many days. I remember when I used to have long swims, 2 kilometers, 2.5.
Yeah.
I used to come to work absolutely tired and so sleepy. I used to look at that sofa in the theater. Sometimes I used to look at the patient on the table, and I used to feel, oh, if I was lying on that table, I could be sleeping.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that kind of, because when you reach at work, everybody is fresh, everybody is raring to go, and you are actually already half
I
dead.
don't know. I found that because I did most of my long training on Saturday, Sunday.
Mm.
So after the long training on Sunday, yeah, I would just want to sleep, have a quick nap or something because you'd be so tired. But I found like during the week, I used to do these 4 kilometer swims, right? And that takes a good 1 hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours. I think when you're training, sometimes, yeah, at least 2 hours
Yeah.
it takes. So then I would wake up super early, wake up at 4:30, go to this public pool because I wanted a 50-meter pool. So I
Mhm.
went to a public pool, 5 o'clock, reach there by and start by 5:30, finish by 7:30, come back by 8 o'clock, and then head to work by whatever 9:30, breakfast, kids, go to school, whatever. I think yeah, by 10 o'clock you're like, dude, half the day is done. I'm done. It feels like half the day is over. But I think, few things like getting the right amount of rest, right? I
Mhm.
think that is so key. Like for me, if I sleep, if I get my 7, 8 hours, and like I said, all my parameters are fine in terms of iron, this, that,
Mm.
and the other, I'm actually okay. And eating right, like actually, you don't need a lot of carbs,
Yeah.
like the simple carbs. I just stopped eating rice and white rice and
Mhm.
roti and all that because I just found it counterproductive. It would make me sleepy actually. So when
Right.
I actually ate other stuff like meat, vegetables, quinoa, those kind of foods, I actually didn't feel as tired. And this is a big learning for me. I've stopped eating white rice when I'm in office.
I
I
think
just feel
that
very
makes a lot of
tired.
difference because it gives you that terrible slump. You feel
Yeah.
very happy when you
At
eat.
2:33, I used to just
Yeah.
want to take a nap. And I actually am not a nap, like I never take naps during the day. I never take naps because unless I'm exhausted beyond control, then I take a nap. So I generally don't need a nap, but I think going to bed early, 9 o'clock, I go to sleep
Yeah.
with the kids. And that's the biggest change because I used to be a night owl. In my 20s, I would only start working at 9 o'clock. At night, go up till 3 o'clock. All my
Mm.
classes I would take after 11 so that I could sleep 3 to 10 o'clock. I was a complete night owl. And I would say the way Ironman has changed me is this, like my sleeping habits. I've like now I just want to go to bed by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I'm like, unless something is really pressing or like important, I would just want to go to bed by 10. That's a huge lifestyle change for me, but I think it's not just for Ironman. I think most women, when they hit their 40s, they want to just go to bed by 10.
No, but most of the women, what happens is their husbands will come late
Yeah.
or their kids will come late, and then they want to, have dinner together. And by the time they wind up, it's already 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And so women, for most of their lives, I see that they're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
For me, I'm in bed by 8. At least
Oh,
I announce to the world that I'm in bed by 8. But you always will have those people who
yeah.
are at 9 o'clock very fresh
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
calling you with something very important which they want to share. And I'll be like, if it's not very urgent, if nobody's dying, can we talk about it tomorrow?
Yeah. So the calls, like you said, I'll try to do my calls on the way sometime during commute so that you're not wasting office time on calls. And I think, yeah, the going to bed part is extremely important.
Does it sometimes happen that you've done an Ironman and you put in very long hours at training, and by now everybody knows? So does it ever happen that oh my God, oh Sunday she must be out cycling, oh she must be tired training, oh will she travel? I don't think she must be training. Does it ever happen to you at work?
People make a few snarky comments, quite a few snarky comments. But I think I've changed even my social calendar. I'm like, let's meet for lunch. Let's go out for brunch. Let's not do night. So I'm like, I like, I'll meet you. So coffee, lunches, that's what I prefer. I prefer not to do late night dinners and all that. Because honestly, like I'm also, like I said, going through another fitness journey now, because after the Ironman, as I said, I was continuing to eat like I was working out
Training,
14,
yeah.
15 hours a week, and didn't work. And I had to, again, I thought, okay, now Ironman is done. Now I can just be a little free. And all my discipline went away. Yeah. And so I gained weight, then again, now I'm going through that journey. So now I want to finish my food by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't prioritize, like, weekends we try to eat together. See, morning when it's school, one goes at 7 o'clock, one goes at 8 o'clock, husband goes at 9 o'clock. Where's you can't eat breakfast together. Lunch, we're all somewhere at work or school, so that doesn't happen. Dinner, we are around, but I try to finish by 6:37. Like, I just want to have like soup, salad,
Mm,
whatever, some home cooked food, and I want to finish it by 7, because if I want to sleep by 9:30, 10, I need to eat at least by 7. Kids also eat
absolutely.
by 7, but usually it's a lot of, coaxing. Can I watch some
Yeah.
TV? Can I do this? Can I do that? So we are in the same place, but we're not sitting at the dining table. Weekends, we try to do that.
I think it's very important because my husband used to come back from clinic at 10.
Hmm.
So there was a time where I used to, just sit waiting for him.
Yeah, that's
Then I
crazy.
decided
Yeah.
that, his plate will be in the microwave. He'll heat up, he'll eat, and then he'll come to bed. The day I started doing that, I think it was a new leaf in my life.
But were there expectations for you to do it?
Not really, but you also want to catch up, you want to speak a little. But then now we've decided that our me time is in the morning. So when we run together,
Oh,
when
you
we
ran
go out
together.
and
That's
cycle
good.
together, that's our time.
Yeah.
And that's when we are actually very happy with each other. At the end of the day, we are both cranky, so it doesn't help.
Yeah, yeah. So we manage, I think mornings are very hectic, yeah. So we at that 7 to 8:30 is family time. So I like to be back home by 7, and 7 to 8:30 try to start getting the kids ready for bed and all that, and 7 to 9, I think that's good enough.
Right. So you work in real estate. It's not a field where we see a lot of women. So what was the journey like being a woman in this kind of a profession?
See, frankly, I don't know if this is a north versus south kind of a thing, but
Yeah.
I never had a issue, frankly. It was pretty seamless for me. I joined the business when I was 27, I want to say, and now I'm 42. And I've not had like some of these horrible stories that women go through, because
Yeah.
first of all, it was a company started by my father. So I didn't have to deal with a lot of sexism and all that. I was already, of course, I grew in the ranks over the years. It
Right.
took me 10 years to get onto the board, but I've not had too many unpleasant dealings, I want to say. But and my sister and I are both in the business. We're two daughters. We no brothers and all that. So our parents grew like raised us to, like, my mother always says, I don't care what you do in life, just make sure you earn your own money or you're
Mhm.
working and you're financially independent. I think financial independence is something ingrained in my brain since the time I was a child. So whether I'm working in my father's business or some other business, I know I would always work. I haven't taken a day, like maybe I took 2 weeks off after college between jobs, and I have taken my maternity leave and maybe 3 weeks for my
Mm.
wedding. That's about it. Otherwise, my leave is very minimal. Like, we obviously take family holidays and all that, but whatever the every other employee in the company gets, that's what I take as well. And that's good. I do believe that taking rest days, taking
Mm.
few days off with the family is very good for the body, for the family, for everybody. So I'm not opposed to that, but I haven't had like any terrible instances where because I'm a working woman in real estate. In fact, I actually want to say to the contrary. My male colleagues, my male counterparts in other
Mm.
competitor firms have also been very supportive,
Mm.
actually. So I know there are women, like, I've obviously come across many women who've also worked in the north, but they also have some interesting stories. Like,
Yeah.
I used to this lady who was separated. She was separated or divorced or something. She says, Nirupa, I just walk around with a wedding ring. Like, when I met her, she had a wedding ring. So I was like, okay, whatever. So, but then later she told me she's not married. I said, but you have a wedding ring. She's like, believe it or not, I just have my wedding ring so that people don't act
Mm.
inappropriate or they don't ask me inappropriate questions. Otherwise, why aren't you married? This, that, all
Mm.
these other
Mm.
things. So I've honestly not had to deal with too many unpleasant situations. And real estate, my sister and I are very hands-on. We go to all the land parcels ourselves. We do the landowner discussions. Maybe sometimes if this a particular person is, he's much older to us, like I'm just saying in the 60s or 70s or
Mm.
80s, of course, then they might have more comfort talking to my father, who's more their,
Right.
their
Age group,
age
yeah.
group. So that's a comfort level, but nobody is ever disrespected. We've
Right.
still speak to our landowners. We still deal with customers. We still deal with many people who are, I can't say twice my age now, but when I was starting off, when I was in my 30s,
Mm.
twice my age. And it was not a problem at all. People have been very respectful, I would say. In corporate Bangalore, I
Right.
can't speak for, I haven't worked anywhere else in India,
Yeah.
so hard for me to say, but I go for all my meetings, whether it's Chennai, Kochi, Hyderabad, Bombay, Delhi.
Mm.
People have been very, very respectful. Um,
Over the years, have you seen more women coming into real estate? You are at a very senior position, but in more junior positions?
So I think we see a lot of younger engineers there. I think when we try to hire, especially graduates,
Mm.
we try to do 50-50 as much as possible. But currently, I would say, interesting enough, construction or our real estate development business has today about 24 to 25% female,
That's
which is actually pretty
surprising.
good.
Yeah.
Like I was, in fact, looking at hospitality. I was just coming from a hotel opening, and they were saying it's like 11 to 15%, which is
Mm.
actually interesting. I actually thought like hotels would have more number of
More
women
number.
because there are a lot of front office positions, right? Your front desk, your housekeeping, your a lot of
Mm.
that. But maybe I don't know. It has to do with the long hours. It has to do
Very
with the
long
late
hours.
nights. It has
Yeah.
to do with the physically demanding nature of the job. Maybe that's why there are fewer women there. For Brigade, we are consciously trying to get more women engineers to work on site. But of course, like safety is a huge concern. So we try to make sure that they leave before 7 o'clock. That's a
Mm.
mandate that they should leave before 7 o'clock. If they leave late, then a manager sort of accompanies them to make sure that they go back home or they reach homes safely. Some male colleague, will be there with them. So we try to take a lot of initiatives to make sure that this workplace is very safe for our female engineers. See, corporate office is generally, I would say, a safe place. Like you said, it's in a
Yeah.
large office, but it's on site, on premise, on grounds at a construction site where there are a lot of, I would say, construction laborers out there. And it's very male dominated. There could be just
Yeah.
maybe a handful of female engineers on a construction site. But I think from our company wise, we try to ensure that our women workforce is very safe and well taken care of at the site. And then, yeah.
Women in endurance sport, do you see the number increasing or do you see it's the same? What do you think you want to do for women, more women to come into maybe running, triathlon, or
Yeah.
endurance
So,
sports?
so sorry, I realized I didn't finish that previous
Yeah.
answer. It was at some point 27% female. We do see a huge drop off rate at the mid to senior levels.
Mm.
So, like after they have kids, after, like, the questions that people ask women are still the same, right? Especially if it's a woman coming for a job. Where is your husband? Will he move with you? What happens if you want to have kids? The norm, I'm sorry to say, but it is still, those questions are still asked.
And when are you planning to conceive?
Yeah,
Are you
unfortunately. What
are you
about
already
kids?
pregnant? Yeah.
See, and it's, of course, in the US, if you ask these questions, it'll be very politically incorrect to do so, and it'll be called sexism and all that. But frankly, in the Indian scenario, it is very pertinent questions, because the way women sort of bend over backwards for family is may not be the same in the US, right? In
Yeah.
the US, they have health, their child, they drop off their kids at daycare, and spouses find a way to share the load equally. So, unfortunately, we're still having to ask those questions of our female workforce. Um, as an employer, it is unfortunate, but it is practical in a way, and I don't want to endorse these questions, but I can't find fault because you are investing in everybody. But anyway, I think the more important aspect is how do we get the women force after they have their kids, after
Back.
back into the workforce. I think that is where I'm very keen, uh, to propagate
Mm.
that theory, because I understand not everybody will have a support structure. You do need to take care of your kids. It is important. Not everybody's comfortable giving getting help to do it. And unless
Absolutely.
you have a mother or mother-in-law, it's difficult. So I get it. There is a drop off after that happens, but for me, I want to stress on how do you get women back into the workforce when they hit their 40s, when the children are a little older, even if it's part time. I'm constantly trying to push women to get, like what my mother told me, get some financial independence.
Mm.
Get some financial independence. It doesn't have to take care of all the expenses, but at least something, take care of things that you want for yourself, your hobbies or whatever you're passionate about. That I'm very particular about. So we haven't seen that number of women in the workforce increasing. I actually think there's a slight decrease. And I think these are nationwide statistics as well.
Right. And I think it's also very important because, kids will grow up very fast. By the time the kids are in ninth, 10th, 11th grade, they're pretty much on
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah.
And then they move to college to some other city. And, that's when it hits you that, you've lost those
Yeah.
years. You had that experience and that skill which you could have contributed to the workplace. But, those growing up years, when the initial 10 to 12 years that you have kids, especially the initial 5, they're really tough
Yeah.
because you have to actually make sure that your kids are safe before
Mm.
anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, so I actually think mothers have so many skill sets, right? Like their time management abilities, their
Yeah.
efficiencies. So I think it should be easy to reskill a female who's dropped out from the workforce because of family or whatever reasons. And I think it should be pretty easy to reskill them. And I think we would be doing our companies, our country, and everything a huge service by getting our women back into the workforce.
Absolutely. And they'll be in for longer
Yeah,
because at 40, 42, when your kids are little grown up, you still have good 20 years of, or
yeah,
maybe longer of
longer.
productive life where you can
Yeah,
actually
like 40 to
contribute.
70 is a good 30 years,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
hopefully, like generally, most faculty should be in place at least till
Yeah.
70 now. So I think we should definitely strive towards that. And how do we reskill women? Because generally they say, what will I do? I don't have the skill set. I've been out of the workforce for so long. But they come with so many other softer aspects,
Yes. Yes.
intangibles that you can't train people
Yes.
for. So I think the technical aspects, the quantifiable things you can always train, but they come with so many secondary skill sets that I think is very
That
hard
only
to
life
find.
and
Yeah,
experiences can give
life and
you. Yeah.
experience, yes.
Absolutely.
And sorry, the second part about endurance.
Yes.
I do see more women joining endurance sports. I think there's a huge awareness. Like I myself have seen the change, like in 5 to 7 years. Like prior to this social media, you open it was only parties and this and that, people posting pictures of
Holidays.
parties,
Yeah.
holidays, this, that. And now it's just endurance. Like everybody is getting into something, which is amazing to see. And I think Indians are just getting more conscious of fitness, of health, of everything, which is really wonderful to see because I don't think we were necessarily very fit the way, you know,
Absolutely.
like,
We were the diabetes capital of the world and heart disease, we were the number one for many, many years. So I think
yeah.
genetically
And our
also,
food has a lot of starches.
yeah.
So just, I think people, women, especially 40-year-olds now, are extremely fit. And they don't look their age as much.
Absolutely.
Just pay myself a compliment.
uh,
Yeah.
so, you've managed 3 full-time jobs actually. You've done an Ironman. You're mother to two very young
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
and you're managing a huge business. So these are 3 full-time jobs. So what's the trick to manage all three?
Uh, the trick is that not to compartmentalize. Everything just flows. It's of ebbs and flows. There are some days when I will have to train more than
Mm.
spending time with the family. There are some days like I'll have to spend more time with the family than train. There are some days there's some days I'll have to work and forget about training. So I think if you try to divide up time and say this work life balance and all that, it's not going to happen. There's no balance. There is, like I said, ebbs and flows in
Yeah,
life. There are, when you're training for an Ironman, you don't have to be hardcore throughout the year, right? You, like today, if you have to do another Ironman, you don't have to train for 12 months. You can train for 6 months. So you have
absolutely.
6 months in the year when you can just focus completely on work, just do enough to stay fit. Like that's what I'm doing. The last 1 year, I've not been training for any event, but I'm just doing enough to stay fit and strong, keep my muscles intact. That's all I'm doing. So, but when I sign up for a race, I don't need to be hardcore for entire
Yes.
6 months. I need to do maybe the last 2 to 3 months. I'll have to be hardcore. That's when I give up a bit of social life, give up
Mm.
friends, maybe focus more on training, get the hours in. But same way for work, there are some days I can't train. I can't. Sometimes I'm not. available. Maybe I can't go for a child's PTM. I don't know.
Yeah,
There are some days I can't, I have to travel. So, but then there are also days if my child is sick, I'm going to drop everything and attend to my child.
absolutely.
Forget my training, forget work. My child's health will come first. So I have to, so you prioritize and deprioritize. I think we prioritize for the day and see what needs to be done for that particular day and go with that. What helps me is, of course, I have a big support system. My husband is huge support. My in-laws are a huge support. And when I need to like leave or travel, sometimes my kids stay with my in-laws, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday they go to my in-laws. They come back
Mm.
home bathed and fed. So those days I can work late. So everything is a calculation, right? I know that Monday, Wednesday, Friday my kids are with my in-laws, so they will come back home by 7:45, 8. So I can actually stay at work till
Yeah.
7:45, 8 till they come home. Tuesday, Thursday, I try to come home a little early because my kids take the bus to come to my house. So I try to be back at least by 6:37
Mhm.
so I can do so everything is calculation. And my parents live close by down the road. So if anything, they're always a call away, although both of them are working, so they also busy. I have a big support staff. I have bench strength with my support staff because my cooks, my cleaners, my people who take care of the kids, they've been with me a little while, touch wood. So
Mm.
some stability there. But because when there's no stability with the house staff, then your entire schedule
Yeah.
goes for a toss. So it's everything. I think it's having a good support network and realizing that it's not one or the other. It's you're going to have to prioritize and deprioritize, like life, right? Like friends. There are months when I can prioritize my friends, and there are months when I can't. There's months when like 6 months a year, I tell myself, go socialize, go do your dinners, go do your, because you need to also. Life is also like relationships are important.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere you have 5 buckets, right? There's friends, family, exercise, work, and health, or something like that. And you can't do all 5 every time. You will have to prioritize any 3 at a given time. And then you have to keep reprioritizing and prioritizing. Right now, this whole year, I didn't do I knew I was not going to train for an Ironman, so I didn't prioritize Ironman training.
Mhm.
I still go some Sunday cycle ride. I swim because I want to swim once a week cycle. Rest of the time, I'm just doing very basic stuff. But I know next year I do want to do an event.
Right.
And I'll plan accordingly those 3 months. I will also look at my work schedule. I'll make sure that there's no very large work event
Mm.
happening. I'll plan my work events, for that. And, off late when we train for an Ironman, you leave the family behind. I want to start getting my kids into the Ironman training. I want my 8-year-old, or
Mm.
she'll be 9 soon. I said, train with me for Ironman kids. There's Ironman kids. So I want to
Yeah.
take her for my events. I want her to also start exercising, and she is now big into sports. So I've said, start swimming, start running. On Sundays, I try to play sport with her. So everything is just, it helps. Everything helps each other.
Yeah.
Like training for an Ironman, we discussed like the way it gives you credibility. I was talking to a potential investor, and he said, Nirupa, invest in my main business. He said, Nirupa, people love athletes because they know that they come with mental toughness,
Mm.
ability to endure, hard work, discipline, and people love to invest in people like that. So doing the Ironman helps my work. My work helps me fund everything else. It's important. My mental stimulation is work. My family, I'm going to take them along with my work as well. Like they come to office sometimes, they're going to come for my races. Hopefully that'll be a positive impact on them, and they'll become sporty people who are conscious of food and how they eat and how they exercise and how important sleep is. So with
It's
everything benefits
yeah,
each other. I would say it's all synergistic. There's no
absolutely.
need to look at it as one or the other. Like I'm a better person because I did my Ironman. I will confidently tell you that I'm a better person. And today I can't say I'm my fittest self, but I know what it takes to do something hard. I know what it takes, and I will do it. And I have confidence in myself that I can do hard and difficult things. And
Yes.
actually, that's how you build confidence, right? By doing difficult things, that's how you build confidence. By doing things you're scared of, that's how you build confidence. And if you ask me, what do I want for my child? Like the school asks me every year, they'll say, so what do you want your child to learn this year? I say, I want her to be confident. I want her to be a secure, confident person. So how do you become confident? You do difficult things. So these are intangibles that you can't measure, and I feel that's the benefit. And I would say every woman should do a sport.
Absolutely. I feel every woman should do an Ironman because it teaches you something which we call as triage. So, in medical terms, triage is somebody's in the emergency and they decide how urgent this is and how not urgent that other patient is. And then they, allocate doctors or resources to that. So, I think the biggest takeaway for me from an Ironman was something called triaging. So, how important is this right now to you? Obviously, family always
Yeah,
comes first, work always takes precedence, but I learned that there were so many other things which were not that important. And it's not that it doesn't take a toll on your family, because your family and
yeah,
work are kind of on the maintenance mode when you're intensely into
correct,
this.
correct.
Sometimes, when your kid's exam is around or he's in the 12th grade, so he is in that intense mode and triathlon is in the maintenance mode.
You're so right. Because that's exactly what happened when I was training for that half full Ironman for 6 months. I told you my kids go to school at two different times, so I would only be able to see. I would either try to finish my workout early, then I'd miss the first child, or go after the first child, then I'd miss the second child going to school. So they were like, "Mama, we never get to hang out with you when we wake. We don't see you when we wake up. You know, this is like uh but it was a conscious call. I said, okay, I know I have to do it for just 5 months, just bear with me for 5 months. So this year I make sure I'm there every damn morning to make sure I send both to school. It was
Mm,
because they need that from me
yeah.
also. So like you said, maintenance mode, that's a good way to put it. My fitness right now is on maintenance mode, I would say, and my Ironman and I mean my family is priority right now, and I'm there for every event they need me. I'm there in the morning, I'm there at night. It's priority. So you have to, as there's another way to look at it as bank balance, right? You have to get enough bank balance from family. So you have a positive bank balance. So when you need to expend
Yeah.
and train for your next race, you can use your positive bank balance. When I was training for Ironman, my family had negative bank balance, right? Work always has to have positive bank balance. But with it's the family bit or the friends
Yeah.
bit. Friends though had negative bank balance. So now when you're not training for an event, you have to
Absolutely. My
get
my
your
husband
brownie
says
points.
ये marks बढ़ा रही है अपने. So I'll sit with my mom. I'll come and stay with my son.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gathering marks so that when I'm not paying attention to them, I can bank
Yeah.
on that bank balance.
Yeah. So you need positive bank balance now. Since after Ironman, family was negative. So this past 1 year has been getting positive bank balance.
So when are you next doing your Ironman?
I'm this year was actually nothing. I'm trying to do something called a pro camp slam this year, just running. I don't
Mhm.
have time to do cycling and swimming and everything. I'm just doing running. So I'm trying to do this year. I have to do something, no? Like I don't think once you get into this journey, you
Yeah,
can't sit
you
still
can't
for
stop.
too long. So Pro Camp Slam is do you know that?
Yeah,
The
so four or
TCS
five, I think races.
TCS
Yeah.
10K, then Delhi 21, Calcutta 25, and Mumbai 42.
Oh wow. So that's quite a
That's for
goal.
this year.
Yeah.
Next year, I want to train for another race. I'm going to do only half Ironman. Still, my kids go to the same school at the same time, so that then I can train with a lot more peace of mind,
Right.
because that's another 2 years away. So I just want to focus on speed, maybe.
And I think we are in it for the long run. It's not
Yeah,
just one tick that this is done. It's actually
tick
not.
is done now. No,
Yeah,
now you're
tick is
doing it
done.
because
It
of the
actually
passion.
becomes a lifestyle because
Yeah,
you miss that tired feeling or those cramps, when nothing is paining, you're like, what is happening with
yeah.
me? Something is wrong.
Yeah, I want to do a half Ironman next year. Let's see, just to keep abreast with it, and
Yeah,
obviously beat my previous time, which was my first half Ironman. Obviously, get a little faster than that,
right,
and hopefully the experience will take me there.
right,
But also put in the effort and do it the right way. The first time you did the race, I was just like, just come cross that finish line, just cross the finish line. Now you want to focus on at least speed, efficiency, all that.
right. Absolutely. So, in the end, today is exactly the
1 year.
1 year anniversary of your Ironman.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? Something that you would like to say or you feel?
I mean, as I said, it's a great journey. I would say it's made me a little philosophical also in life, right? Like I think that these are choices we make. everything is our choice, yeah. And you can choose to be a couch potato, or you can choose to not do an Ironman. You can choose to just focus on work. There's no like good or bad, I would say. You and I have chosen the path of doing this Ironman, getting on the Ironman journey. And everybody has their something that will drive them, something like you
Yeah.
chose the Ironman journey because of something you felt you had to prove, or whatever it is. I felt I took it because I was going through a certain thing in my head. So so there's no right or wrong, there's no good and bad. To the stay at home mom who wants to not work and just focus on her children, I cannot say it's the right or wrong decision, right? And who doesn't want to take up endurance sports, there's no right or wrong.
Right.
So I want to say I've come away being extremely non-judgmental in the whole thing, feeling that everybody has their own journey. What you choose is your choice. There's no right or wrong choice. You have to make it right or wrong for yourself.
Absolutely.
That's it. So I might choose to never do an Ironman again. There's no wrong or right in that. I have chosen it because of, for certain reasons, there's no right or wrong. I might choose to do 100 Ironmans in the next 30 years. There's no right or wrong in that also. So I realized that, what is this? What is the purpose in life? We all start asking, what is the purpose of life? Realized on my long cycle rides, there's no purpose. I can be at home with my family on a Sunday morning, taking them to the park, eating a breakfast with the nice breakfast with them. That's also fine. I can be out cycling for 7 hours in the hot sun, cursing myself, but that's also fine. So there's no right or wrong. Yeah. Everybody's on their own journey and
Mm.
they have to make it right for themselves. At the end of the day, do you sleep well at night? Are you happy with the life that you're leading? One of my driving forces is, whenever I'm on my deathbed, I should be happy with the life I lived. It should be full. But that's my choice, how I choose to live my life. I want a full life. I don't want to feel like I wasted time. I wasted this. I want a full life. So I'm living like that. But that's not everybody, no. Some people, for them, living life is enjoying a cup of chai on their balcony, just sitting and watching the rain go by. So I don't have any like major gyan to say this is what I feel. I feel like I've come away thinking whatever choice you make in your life, make sure it suits you and you make it right for yourself. There's no right or wrong. And somebody can start doing Ironmans when they are 18 or 20, and they can start when they're 60 also.
Absolutely.
So
And they may never start at all.
they may never start at all. That's okay. They can do something else. Maybe they'll play badminton. Maybe they'll do something else. So there's no right or wrong for us, except we make our decisions and we have to make it right or wrong for ourselves. And I think one of the takeaways I would say is through this journey, you get to understand yourself a lot more, right? So understand how you are and do what's right for you, I would say. Too many other influences, whether it's social media, whether it's your
Yeah.
friends doing it, whether it's people are competitive. Oh, my friend is doing it, so I should also do it. I should also get competitive. No, you figure out who are you and you do you. There's no point in trying to copy what somebody else is doing. So I think that was also some of the things I learned on my journey. I think understanding who I am, doing what's right for me. Today, I have people who did Copenhagen last year who are trying to do who've done other races this year, who want to do something else next year. But I took a call that I'm not going to race this year. And that's okay. So
Absolutely.
we have to understand what's right for ourselves. I know why I decided not to race this year. And I know I did it for the right reasons. So so understand yourself, do what's right for you, you do you, don't try to copy or emulate somebody else. But yeah, if you're inspired to do this, by all means go for it, but do what's in your best interest.
Absolutely. And at least for me, I can say, and from what we spoke, to a large extent, it spills over everything. It spills over you have a good sleep. You actually have a better time with your family. And somewhere, at least in most of our cases, our spouse also starts exercising. Our children also will never do what we say, but they'll usually do what we do. So both my kids, the elder
Yeah,
one loves cycling, the younger one goes to the gym very
yeah,
regularly. So they may not actually come into endurance, but they somehow, that the proper diet, the sleep, the schedule,
yeah,
everything spills over the entire
that
household.
spills over. So but I'll just play devil's advocate for one time. Like, I remember when I was training for the Ironman, I was so irritable, right? Because I had to, like you said, balance all these different things. I'm like, I have not finished my workout today. I'm so stressed from morning. If I didn't finish my workout, I'm stressed the whole day. I'm irritated. I've not done my workout for the day. This meeting is there. That meeting is there. Then I need to get up at 5 o'clock. Child is not sleeping. Why can't you go to bed at 9 o'clock? Why do you want to stay late? So I was irritable. And because of the stress of the training and because of the other workloads I had, probably if my kids were older and they didn't depend on me as much, but that's so wrong, right? Like, they need me now. I need
I
to be
remember
here.
so clearly, when I was training for the full, under my table, there used to be a small stool on which I'll keep my legs.
Yeah,
And, the patients are patients. They don't know anything about medical science. And, they'll keep on asking. And it was such an effort to control myself and not lose
yeah,
my patience or, just snap at them.
yeah,
And, now that I'm not training,
yeah.
it's such a relief. I
So,
have so much energy.
so
Nothing is
I'm so
paining.
patient with everybody. And so this is the pros, right? So I took a call also not to train because I wanted to not stress myself out. Frankly, as a doctor, you'll know, like, what is the impact? Like, I used to question, is this much stress on myself a good thing? Because doing an Ironman is stressful. It is, you have work stress, you have family stress, you have physical stress, you have mental stress. It was a lot of stress. And I don't want to stress myself out like that because I don't think that much of stress is good for me in the long run, also.
Because
So,
what happens is you do it once, you've done it, right? You've shown that you can go to the absolute end of your physical and mental endurance. But practically it's not even healthy to work out for 15, 16 hours
it's
at a
not.
stretch.
It's not. So how much of cardio? Yeah, now like when I'm trying to lose weight, I can run how much ever. Like my body is resistant to cardio because I'm used to that much of cardio. I have to do all sorts of other things, high intensity
Yeah,
interval
yeah.
training, something and all I have to do because my body is too used to cardio. I don't lose weight doing cardio endurance like zone 2 type cardio. So there are pros and cons to everything. So I've decided that this year, like, I just want to not be as stressed as I was. I want to give that focus to work and family, and that's
Yeah,
okay. So, yeah.
absolutely.
Now I'll leave the stress for another year.
But it's an addiction, and
It
you
is. I
you keep
definitely want to do another
you keep
one.
scrolling and deciding कि ये हो सकता है क्या, ये
Yeah.
कर ले क्या, you keep deferring, you keep doing all sorts of
Yeah, the
things.
number of deferral fees all of us have accumulated. I think we could have treated ourselves to on holiday somewhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was so lovely talking to you. And, I've been
Likewise.
following you for a while because the endurance community is kind of close knit. And actually, I never thought we'll actually sit together and talk in detail. And I'm sure we actually need one more session to go over many, many other things which are in my mind.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
And I hope all of you enjoyed listening to Nirupa as much as I enjoyed speaking to her. If you have any comments or any questions you would like to ask her, or if this podcast helped you in any way, do let us know in the comments and share it so that more and more women and more people get to know this inspiring person and also feel motivated to make some change in their lives after hearing this podcast. Thank you so much.